Hello and welcome to Views on News. I am Jawad Tehami. Let's begin with Pakistan's location. It not only gives Pakistan strategic and economic importance, the geographic location of Pakistan also gives it a perpetual challenge, a continuous threat from the eastern side, an aggressor and a hegemon. India, the so-called largest democracy in the world, continuously remained aggressive towards its neighbor Pakistan since the inception in 1947. Since then, India had been trying to bully Pakistan, intimidate it with the surgical strikes, the so-called misfired missiles, and also the airstrikes. Now, Pakistan has always tried to go on the negotiating table in order to resolve the all outstanding issues with India, but without giving any actionable evidence. India had been hurling a barrage of accusations against Pakistan. And whenever the Pakistani authorities asked Indian authorities to give any substantial evidence on which the Pakistani authorities could investigate and do action, India came up with none. And especially since 2014, when the government of India was taken over by Bharatiya Janata Party, and it was led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who is globally dubbed as Butcher of Gujarat for his role in the massacre of the innocent Muslims in the state of Gujarat. And then we saw, since 2014, over time, relations between Pakistan and India have worsened, and they have hit the lowest ebb at times also, especially when India did a misadventure back in 2019 by carrying out an airstrike and violating the line of control. And then in 2022, this year in March, it fired a missile, a supersonic flying object that crossed into Pakistan and that landed into Pakistani territory, which caused damage to the properties down on the land. Now, it basically owes to that very Hindutva ideology, the flag bearer of which is Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh, popularly known as RSS. And there are very close associations and links between RSS as well as the Bharatiya Janata Party. Not only this aggression against Pakistan, but also the discrimination against the Muslim minority within India by passing the controversial laws such as the Citizenship Amendment Bill, and also snatching the autonomy of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, which remains to be disputed as per the United Nations status. Yet, India didn't only violate its own constitution and revoke the Article 370 and 35A to snatch the autonomy of that valley, but also deployed a huge number of armed troops over there. And since then, despite the international cause, there had been a continuous curfew and complete communication blackout. And the people over there have been harassed, and there is a nefarious design of changing the demography of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Now, Pakistan's National Command Authority advisor, Lieutenant General retired Khalid Ahmed Kidwai, has given a statement that the poisonous ideology and the custody of the nuclear weapons in the hands of India is posing a real threat not only to this region, but to the security and peace of the entire world. How bigger is this threat, not only for this region, but also for the entire globe? To discuss this, we are today joined in the studio by our guest, Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal, who is expert foreign affairs. Thank you very much for your time, for being with us, and also Mr. Yasir Janjua, senior analyst. Thank you very much for your time, for being on Views on News. A statement coming from the National Command Authority advisor speaks volumes about the misadventures and the kind of aggression India had been carrying out against Pakistan. Now, this statement goes on to say that poisonous ideology plus the custody of nuclear weapons is a threat not only to region but to the global peace and security as well. How bigger do you think this threat is, and the proximity of this threat. Is it near or is it far? Mr. Janjua, please.
Thank you, Jawad. As far as a statement by the National Command Authority advisor, he's an expert and he's a legend in this field. So no one can question what he says. However, what he probably didn't say, and I would like to make a clarification so that the message should be loud and clear and not the wrong message. India's nuclear weapons remain a threat to the regional peace, there's no doubt about it, because they are in the rogue hands. And that's what we all agree on. However, before I go on to that, why they are in rogue hands, I just want to make a clarification, what probably the General Sahib did not say. Look, let there be no misconception or no illusion in the mind of Indians or anybody. Pakistani nukes or Pakistan defense capabilities in very secure and safe hands and very capable of thwarting any enemy designs. So let there be no doubt that we are more capable, and we have established that with evidence that Pakistan can take on anybody. So let the Indians be under no illusion that if they can send a BrahMos and they can do anything. No, we have the capacity and the world knows it. So let there be no doubt that Pakistanis, even if there is a threat of Indian aggression, Pakistan is not scared or fearful of that. Having said that, now I'll come over to the real question, the real part. Is there a threat? Yes, there is a threat. And why is there a threat? Because when you compare Pakistan with India, our nuclear weapons and International Atomic Energy Agency and other international agencies all have categorically said Pakistani nuclear arsenal are very safe because they are in the control of the Pakistani armed forces and no one has access to them and they are very secure. However, on the contrary, the Indians, you know, in the last few years, the nuclear stockpiles, the uranium stockpiles have been stolen and found at various locations in India. They were being stolen to be sold to the black market. Then eventually what you know in March this year, this BrahMos missile that misfired or was deliberately fired, it lands in Pakistani territory. However, again on this one, I have to make a very clear, maybe others may not agree with me. Some people say it was a deliberate effort of India. I'm sorry, I beg to say, if it was a deliberate effort, then you want me to stop here?
Okay, no, I'll come back to this point.
Right,
I'll definitely take your view on this particular, whether it was accidental or was pre-planned.
I have my opinion and
there have been statements, there is another statement by Lieutenant General regarding whether it was accidental or not. When you talk about Pakistan responding in a befitting manner to India, to any sort of misadventure like that, in the case of Balakot strikes, we saw swift action and Pakistan Air Force aircrafts were scrambled right away and they responded befittingly. On the other hand, we saw, and that intrusion was around 3 to 4 miles. This time the intrusion was 124 miles. Why did not Pakistan Air Force respond after this flying object was intruding 125 miles, 4 miles into Pakistani territory? Although the requisite measures were initiated as per the DGI SPR statement.
Right. The thing is, first talk about the Balakot strikes. First and foremost, this is a complete misadventure and a media story that India is, oh, we killed so many terrorists. There were only cows and trees that were killed, you know. Secondly, in response to that, we had an Indian Army Brigade headquarters locked as our target. And we all know and the world knows and the Indians know that the Indian Army's chief was actually sitting there. You know, what would have happened if we killed them? But we didn't. We excised restraint. They didn't stop there. They sent Abhinandan, and you know what happened to Abhinandan later on. We downed him. We hit the aircraft and we captured the pilot. Now when you come out to the BrahMos thing, that it came in 124 miles in, look, it was only a 6-minute operation in total. Now, it was a very dangerous call. If we struck that down, what if there were actually nuclear, what if it was loaded with nuclear material? Okay. So the devastation would have been horrendous, you know, and it was inside Pakistani territory.
In any case, it hit Pakistani territory.
It did come inside Pakistani territory, but thank God, it was not loaded. It was empty.
Dr. Jaspal, so what's your perception of this threat after this particular statement? Because we have seen such of misadventures by India in terms of proximity in near future or in the long term.
I think that the statement was very much based on a reality, because the Indian strategic culture has been transformed gradually from Nehru to the Hindutva. it is dominated by the ultra-realist now. And within that, Modi, for his popularity, is looking Pakistan as a threat, and he's selling this idea to his voters. So there are many things in this, and the problem is that India lost its confidence in its conventional superiority after the Balakot, or in the, if we can practically go for this post-Pulwama military standoff. On 26th Balakot, let me correct here, it was not a LOC violation, it was a violation of international border. That's the reason we responded. Maybe on the LOC, we had a different sort of thing. And on 27th, their Air Force was checkmated, then their submarine was checkmated, and then they went for deployment of BrahMos, they were checkmated. They were informed that if you fire one BrahMos, you will get two in reply. So as a result, and immediately Indians went for nuclear naval assets deployment, which their own Navy spokesperson said, that we deployed the nuclear assets. And besides that, where I look at that Indian lost their conventional superiority phenomena or phobia, which they achieved after 1971, and they lived for over 5 decades, when the Prime Minister Modi started making nuclear rhetorics to de-escalate the tension. Normally, conventionally, inferior state use the nuclear rhetoric to de-escalate. This is established fact, but a conventionally superior state, numerically, if its leader is making de-escalating statements, engaging the international community, Qatal ki Raat, Diwali, massacre, that means that they lost the confidence in the conventional superiority and they wanted to de-escalate. Now the problem here is that from that day to date, we have seen the certain developments which reflects that National Command Authority head, which is the Prime Minister of India, if he is a religiously bigot, if he is using the nativist ideology for his popularity, and if he using the radicalization for mustering the support, and then within that, the Pakistan is a referred object for securitizing and all these sort of things, definitely we have to be alarmed. My second point here is that when you look about this BrahMos, according to our officials, especially technical people says that when you go for a hypersonic, what you call it, missile test, there are many SOPs, many checks and balances, and but still, I feel that technically there's a probability of misfire. But according to our...
How likely is that probability?
No, that is there. Look, technology has always error. Humans have error. But what is our technical experts who deals with the missiles, they have a consensus that it was not a mere misjudgment. Their supporting variable to them is that if it was a misfired, why Indian DGMO didn't inform our DGMO that we were testing a missile, which is a, what you call
That's a very pertinent question.
Yeah, which is a BrahMos supersonic cruise missile. It misfired, it changes trajectory. So it maybe after 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, they get into touch. This delay or not communicating to Pakistan, that consider why we have a DGMOs to avoid the accident or inadvertent usage. So I think that strengthened that they have other motives. Now here comes, if there were other motives, it's very dangerous game. It was the time when the missile entered in our territory. Many international flights were passing.
Flights were there.
Yeah, so that means that it's a mischievous, whatever they wanted to achieve. Second is, for me more alarming is, as a student of strategic study, the Indian report came recently in which they said that they fired 3 employees of their missile batteries and they charged them that they did not properly follow SOPs of testing. That is a variable which the international community is ignoring, which we people are ignoring. Whether they want to test our nerves, I am agreed. They tested our nerves on 29th, 2019, 26th. Response was there, as Janjua sir very rightly pointed out. But the SOP's violation, a nuclear armed state testing a supersonic missile And it's so casual that its SOPs have been
raises
violated.
A question on
That question is irresponsibility.
On the part
That
of the human
question is,
resource
there
or
are
a technical level?
three level of threat. A, technology is rudimentary. What Indians are kept claiming, they are reverse engineering, though it's a BrahMos is Russian and the joint venture, they are not moving ahead. We can now expect from Indian side at number one, anytime technological error, probability of misfire, nuclear capable missiles India has, it cannot hit me only. Their 5,000 kilometer plus range missile, Agni 5, if there is a technology SOP violated,
Exactly.
it can hit the Europe, it can hit the anywhere in the world. So international community must be aware. If there is SOP is violated by a professional people,
Right.
that is a challenge. Second is, in this context, that I have to make it clear what your question was earlier also, why Pakistan did not respond. Please keep in mind, to date, supersonic cruise missile cannot be intercepted by the Americans as well, who are investing immensely in the, you can say, missile defense systems. Even their theatrical defense system, their ballistic missile defense systems, technologically it's impossible.
that can't be tracked. That's what you were
No,
saying.
tracking is one thing,
Okay,
intercepted.
intercepted. Okay,
No
right.
one can intercept.
Right.
Tracking
There was
is,
a sudden maneuver of the course as well.
yeah, not
Is that usual?
Yeah,
with such
that's
type of-
usual. That's the reason that when the Trump said in 2017, fire, I will unleash fire and fury on the North Korea, and then he had to change his mind when he was told, you don't have this to defend yourself with their no-down missiles. So same is for the, but the only thing which we did it, we tracked the trajectory, we managed the time, and we told them, this is your trajectory, this is the time, here it has been fallen, you are checkmated. So we have to keep in mind, it's a responsible behavior. If you see Pakistan gradually in the 2 decades, our nuclear posturing is very much mature. We are not going for a
Dr.
knee-jerk.
Jaspal will come to this very particular point, and the kind of restraint Pakistan has been showing towards India after all these misadventures. Mr. Janjua, what's your take regarding, was it accidental? The point that you were trying to highlight earlier, was it accidental?
Well,
because there is a statement by Mr. Khalid Ahmed Kidwai that it was not accidental because it goes through a procedure, and until and unless there is no clearance from the top command, such of things
Now,
don't
here's
happen.
the thing. With all due respect to General Kidwai, I am no match to him. But if we are trying to say it wasn't accidental and India planned it, then there's a failure on our part. Then what did we do about it? I want to establish that it was not only an accidental, it was a technical error and it was a failure. Their technology, as Jaspal Sahab was saying, is a failure. Now, there is a self-destruct mechanism in all these kinds of hypersonic missiles and supersonic missiles. So there is a technological failure. India's technology is inferior, and if the inferior technology, if it gets in rogue hands, you know the kind of devastation. Now, if it was planned, if somebody says it was planned, there was a Saudi Airlines plane, there was a Qatar Airways plane, there was at least two Indian domestic flights in the air. The standard protocol throughout the world is when you carry out tests, you inform everybody.
Either way, whether it was this case or the other one, it is highly questionable and objectionable.
It is objectionable, and that's why I say they're rogue, because they don't even have control over their missiles,
So-
whether technologically, whether it's human error or whether it's machine error.
So for how long Pakistan would keep on showing restraint in such sort
Look,
of
as I
cases?
said, it was only a 6 minutes flight, and out of that only 3 minutes was in Pakistan or 2.5 minutes in Pakistan. Now, you couldn't pick up the phone, the DGMO couldn't pick up the phone within the minute it just crossed the border and told, and even if they called the Indian DGMO, what would the Indian DGMO do? The problem here is, as I said, nobody till then knew, sitting on the ground, the air defense systems, they would not know if this BrahMos missile, first and foremost, it cannot be tracked if it's really at that height. When it comes down,
40,000
Yeah.
40,000 feet.
so you
That's
can't
why
track
it was
that.
causing a
now,
threat to
now
the
the question
flights
is,
also.
even when it came down in the range, well, there were only seconds before it blew or came down. We did not know if there are nuclear arsenal inside. As I said, if we used our air defense systems and blasted it, it would have caused an actual nuclear explosion. So and we behaved, as he said, we exercised restraint as a responsible nation. We did not react.
Right. So Pakistan has been, again, I'm repeating this, Pakistan has been showing restraint.
And in
not
case,
only
I'm sorry, I'm
restraint.
cutting you. In case of submarine also, we checkmated them and we informed them. In case of submarines, a conventional submarine, the moment it is identified, it's gone, because then it's on the radar and then till the time it goes into it. So they've been checkmated not once but many times.
Many times. So, right, your point is well taken. Whether it was this case, whether it was accidentally fired because of technical fault or because of the laxity of the human resource concerned, or whether it was a pre-planned strike, Pakistan showed restraint on one side. What the international community needs to do, because this time around, if it, in case it was a misfire towards Pakistan, it could be a misfire towards any other country, for example. It could be towards China, it could be towards Iran, it could be towards Russia. And as Dr. Jaspal alluded to the fact, the Agni missile has a range of 5,000 kilometers, so it could go a long way further as well. So what the international community needs to do, and specifically talking about the Security Council of the United Nations.
Right. Before the Security Council, the International Atomic Energy Agency must correct its course. When they can go into Iran, when they go into Iraq to find out if there are nuclear weapons, they should have actually taken India to task. What are you guys doing? They should have taken control of this situation, taken stock of this situation, and asked the Indians. And I'm sorry, they have not done so. We have to develop or mount that international diplomatic pressure on the Indians, and through the international community, through the United Nations. This is something which cannot be overlooked, because if you overlook this, this is going to happen in the next few years again.
Right.
And that's what Pakistani missions abroad and the Pakistani government must do to tell the world. I think this should have been part of the speech.
There
at the
are
United
loads
Nations.
of issues India's got.
But let me
wrong.
make it
So
here.
There's a long
Please,
list. Pakistan needs to sensitize the international community. Dr. Jaspal.
Our program is going at the international level, as we have to be very careful. When we talk about restraint or immaturity, my understanding is that our response on this missile was a reflection of a nuclear responsible state.
Right.
Restraint is if they attack, if they can cause a damage, if there is a deliberation behind it, or if they call it. In the case of Balakot, they were building up surgical strike. They were saying, so we retaliated. We told them that if you conduct a surgical strike, we will not think but we retaliate. Our Prime Minister categorically stated. In this case, we knew this thing can happen. We have this kind of a thing happen in the Russian case when there was they tested the weather rocket and it was assumed. There are many times. So in such a situation, in nuclear, where we become a nuclear weapon state, you are not a, you can say, teenager knee-jerk responder. You have to digest number of the things and respond. And I think Pakistan's response was very mature, calculated, and I recommend it must continue. Being a student of nuclear strategic studies and working and teaching this nuclear, these response, when you look, what is the difference between India and Pakistan today? The behavior approach that Pakistani armed forces, Pakistani ruling elite, our response to the conflict or to such a situation is not just like a childish response.
But Dr. Jaspal, very humbly, I would like to make an observation over here. Since, as you mentioned, Mr. Janjua is mentioning that Pakistan acted very responsibly, and there shouldn't be knee-jerk reactions just like a teenager. So why always it is incumbent upon Pakistan to behave responsibly, rather a country which claims to be the largest democracy in the world, that makes a lot of slogans about human rights and this one and that, and accuses Pakistan on so many fronts,
yes.
and is a nuclear armed country. Why isn't incumbent upon it to act responsibly?
Look, this is important. What is our defense policy objectives? Our defense policy objective is very clear: deterrence, defense, if deterrence fails. What is India's objectives? Great power or blah, blah. You are repeatedly saying biggest democracy in the world, but it's a sham democracy in the world.
It claims to be the largest.
They claim, look, I can claim myself many things. We have to see that whether this democracy is functional. If you read the Rahul Gandhi statements, if you see It's the biggest country. It's something, whatever they are claiming, they have a right to claim. Whether world is following it or not, we are living with.
They are the nuclear
let me make it
driven
clear.
by Hindutva ideology, especially since
Agreed.
2014.
Look,
so they have to act responsibly.
and
they are vying
look,
for the seat, a permanent seat in the Security Council as well at the same
That
time.
is the point. That is the point.
Jawad,
Let me make it. Whatever they are thinking, they have a right to think. What they are claiming, they have a right to claim. World has to make a distinction.
Exactly.
I am not accepting it as a viable democracy. I am not accepting it as a constitutional setting. I know about the Hindutva. I have wrote a number of the things on it. I do not looking Modi as a Democrat. I am looking in as a butcher of Indian Muslims. But world is dealing. Here there is a need. We have to not focus on the Indians. We have to only defend. We have to sensitize the international community that for the sake of your China policy, I mean American-led world, for the sake of bigger economic market, why you are adopting an apathetic approach towards irresponsible behavior of India. As earlier it was pointed out, number of times there were nuclear, you can say uranium theft incidents, there is a missile incidents. World, look, we know what Indian designs are. We don't bother what Indians are doing. We are maintaining our defensive fence, solidifying with confidence. We are relaxed. But worrying is here. World has to worry now. A nuclear armed state is acting irresponsibly, and its irresponsible strategic behavior is going to undermine the not only the region, the global security. That is the point on which we need to be very clear. Our security from 1947 has been undermined by the Indian policy, and that's the reason we are a nuclear weapon state today. We are not worried. The world has to worry now.
Jawad, as far as they're being rogue on their nuclear policy, as Jaspal Sahab was saying, I'll just pick it up from where in. It is for the world, international community to wake up to it. In 1974, they exploded their first device and nobody knew in the world, right? In 1998, they took the first strike. Nobody knew it. They did not inform the International Atomic Energy Agency when they did it. And to their utter displeasure and surprise, we were ready. In 14 days' time, Pakistan gave them a befitting response, and the world admitted that our nuclear detonation was much better and a textbook nuclear detonation compared to the Pokhran one. So India has never done the things rightly. Now, on the question of there is a threat to the international community. Pakistan is not scared. We have developed tactical nuclear weapons, and we will decimate them. We will decimate their field formations if they dare come near. And they know it. They know it. Because the Cold Start doctrine, when we developed our tactical nuclear weapons, we put them in their box. Technologically, Indians are not at all better than us in any field. You pick up Tejas aircraft, even the Indian Air Force is not willing to buy. RJF-17, even the Argentinians, Malaysia, Indonesia, and African countries are buying. Our tank is 10 times better than their tank. Our missile program, across the board, each one of our missile has been the best, and they have had successive failures in their launches and missiles. So India technologically is bad, but being bad and being rogue combined together is a dangerous proposition for the international community. Pakistan is trying to do what it can to exercise restraint, but it's for the international community, the IAEA and the United Nations and the world powers to wake up to it. Look, we have let somebody on the loose who's not dependable at all. And on the contrary, they put them in Quad. What business Indians do have in the Quad? They are nowhere near that, it is just because of China. This is not the way a responsible nation in a region which is such a flashpoint and which is so centric to so many things.
Does it owe to the containment policy?
Look, the containment policy, if this is how the Americans or the West would want to pitch India against China, they're not going to achieve their objectives. This is only the one country in the entire region which is not part of BRI or CPEC. Everybody else has joined. Why don't the Indians realize the route to prosperity of the region is trade and not war?
But
and
they
not
want
weapons.
the so-called former glory to be restored, which date back to more than 2,000 years before, making
So they should wait. Yeah.
Hindu
Let me
nationalism.
tell the Indians on your face, we ruled you for 750 years. You've just had 75 years. So it will take you another 1,000 years before you can think about restoring your bloody glory. I'm sorry for the
And
word.
they're also including those areas, the countries, for example, Sri Lanka and Bhutan, into that
Sri
territory,
Lanka?
which never fell under
Sri
India
Lanka?
except
Yeah.
under the British
Let me
rule.
tell you, go and ask an ordinary Sri Lankan or even the Sri Lankan government. They hate Indians now. Ask the Bengalis, the East Pakistanis, erstwhile East Pakistanis. Look at their relations. Ask Dr. Saab, is the Bengal government or the Bangladeshis, they're on good terms with the Indians?
Right.
Nepalese,
Exactly.
nobody.
Dr. Jaspal, as Mr. Janjua has alluded to the fact, India doesn't have had the problems with Pakistan only. It had the problems with other neighbors also, including Nepal. Even we saw with China recently, as well as Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and it is trying to either meddle into the affairs or trying to intimidate them as well. Then the citizenship law for the minorities in Muslim countries, in specific, when we talk about Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Pakistan, excluding Muslims. So the designs are very clear. So what exactly the international community needs to do in concrete terms to not let India meet the nefarious designs that it is
First of all, international community have no appetite to control the India. Second is that I concur your view that from 1947, India annexed the Kashmir, Junagadh, Hyderabad, and then in the following years, Sikkim, Goa, and again, it is now having a problem with the China or the LOC, with us at the LOC, LAC and LOC with the Nepal, Bhutan. India entire periphery is vulnerable and dangerous, and that's why you find the movements there. Within India, India failed to have a unified kind of thing. Of course, Hindutva or Hindu is a 80%, but 20% is again a big percent minorities, and minorities are facing a big crisis in India. Now in the international community, when they say human rights, nobody is talking. Why? Because we have to keep in mind the geostrategic interests are more important than humanitarian interest. In the realpolitik, this is a reality. The Americans-led world or the Europeans, for them, their strategic interest, geostrategic interest, coupled with their economic interest, they are more important than the humanitarian
So in
or
terms
humanity.
of talking about the strategic interests, does it owe to the containment policy, specifically
Because
vis-a-vis
the Americans
China?
have started looking. We have to be very. In 1990, 91, when the Cold War ended, the Americans said New World Order. Even at that time, Chinese foreign minister made a speech. Yes, New World Order on the basis of 5 principles. And from 92 onward, we have seen Indo-US strategic partnerships. When they signed the Malabar naval exercises, in 94 they started, and gradually they built. In late 90s, they declared China as a next threat. And even if you go from the Clash of Civilization debate, which was sponsored by the State Department, that was also from 93 onward. So India, they identified as their strategic partner, and then gradually 2004, 2005, leading towards 2016, major defense partner. So they are building India, and they are endorsing India, they are encouraging India to be a net security provider in the Indian Ocean. See the American documents in which they say India has a role to play in South Asia, Indian Ocean and beyond, because they wanted to contain the China, and for that they think India will act as their local Leviathan. But to their utter disappointment, India is not acting. If you see in the last 1 year, or especially after the Ukraine, the Indian foreign minister statements here and there, India is trying to assert its strategic autonomy. And this is a reality. India never have been dependent on any state, or India never go for a bandwagoning for its survival, because we are not posing a threat to its survival. China is not posing a threat to its survival. The other smaller neighbors are not posing a threat to survival. So India has this luxury to live with a strategic autonomy, but now it is compromising. Within India, there is a debate that Modi's policies, this 2+2, or all these kind of things, where they are making India as a great power, it is becoming a bandwagoning or something dependent on the Western or the American strategic domain. Indian try to clarify, oh, we are partner. But when I say that, what is the Bika, what is the Logistica, what is the Comcasa, They are not the alliance, they gives the impression that you are allies. So you are no more a non-aligned member, and that's why in the Modi time, there's no word in his speeches about the NAM. So India is in a transforming force. India is also struggling to maintain its strategic autonomy, but paying a big price with the Americans. And if it suits to the West, because even if you see, after the Ukraine, we were expecting that the American strategic enclave will start looking Russia as a bigger threat. But even now, when the Biden national security strategy came on the other DOD departments, they are looking China as a number one. And then in nexus, they see Russia. And terrorism is the secondary now. So in this context, who can checkmate the China? They think India. India is shown in the Galwan, but India has no capacity to checkmate the China. And Indians are dealing with it. And it's very interesting and ironical that from the June 2020, the legitimate trade volume increased between China and India. So the Indians are trying to play, and at the same time, Indians are also fixed. So in this changing world, my understanding is we are trying to look world as a minusing the realpolitik realities. So realpolitik reality is that they want to contain China. India is willing to do it. Practically, India is unwilling. Now the Americans have started realizing, and they started realizing the significance of the other states in this region.
So, Dr. Jaspal, what I understand from all this argument that you made, now India on one side tries to intimidate its neighbors, right? And on the other side, it tries to exercise and assert autonomy in front of the big powers like the US. Now, connecting this to a statement by the RSS chief, Mohan Bhagwat, who is of a very clear statement by him, goes on to say that India will become Akhand Bharat in 10 to 15 years. Now, this idea of unbroken India, on one side it is trying to exert its autonomy, and on the other trying to intimidate the neighbors. So that goes very much hand in hand with such type of statements coming from India. So that is actually directed towards getting that Hindu nation.
Look, this is an important point. We have to take into way, and if I become a devil's advocate, there's a pity because India has never been having their own, because their scholar is, or philosopher is Chanakya, which we call it. It's from Taxila. Their golden age is from Taxila, and their Hindu Mahata, which is between the Ganges and Jamuna. So they are confused in a manner in this context, but they are not looking and building themselves as a nation. You know that when you have to build a nation, you have to identify an enemy and you have to come for a renaissance or these kind of things. RSS or they all, what is their culture? That's why we are afraid of the Modi's policies. I'm not afraid as a Pakistani because we dealing with them, but generally, as a rational citizen of this world, we want this. They're afraid is because their entire narrative is based on Hindu victimhood in the history.
And
that is destroying the India as a secular, India as a major state. India's growth will be compromised.
Right, Dr. Jaspal, your point is well taken. Unfortunately, we are short of time. I have got a couple of other questions. Your take, Mr. Janjua.
I have just one more important thing to say as well. Look, the senior elements in the Indian society, the scholars like Praveen Soni, they say India has no choice but trilateral cooperation with Pakistan and China. So this jingoism will not be in India's favor. What they don't realize, if they are trying to sit in the American bandwagon at the behest of the Americans to challenge the Chinese, they are the ones that lost. America is not here. They have to live in this region. And to continue fighting with China or with Pakistan, India will not gain anything. India has not gained anything. As I said, and one example that I wanted to give, in the Nagorno-Karabakh dispute a few months ago, Indians have seen what their technology can do. You know, I don't want to go into further details. However, one last thing, and that's very important, that may not be related, but what we said. India did not annex Kashmir in 1947. India did try. We took half of it back on force,
Right.
and we'll take the rest of it back from them.
Coming
as
to
well.
this point, Kashmir, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, during his recent visit to the UNGA, during a TV interview, he said that Pakistan is ready to have cordial and friendly relations with India, but until the Kashmir dispute is not resolved as per the UN resolutions. Since 2019, August 2019, we've seen the reign of terror over there. What should be done? Enough sensitization of the world community has been done by all the governments, because no matter which political party is in the government in Pakistan, all are on the same page regarding Kashmir dispute.
If the Sikhs can have a referendum in Europe and UK and Canada, why can't the Indian government have a plebiscite in Kashmir, which is part of the UN resolution? Have a plebiscite done, see what the people of the Kashmir have to say, and the world. But Indians are delaying it because they think they can demographically change the demography of the region.
They want to change the demography.
They
Your
want to
point
change
is
the
well
democracy.
taken, Mr. Janjua. Dr. Jaspal, your brief view about it.
I think that the Prime Minister highlighted the Kashmir issue, and very sensibly he said that without implementing or executing the United Nations resolutions, peace is unthinkable in the region. That is a reality. Without resolving the Kashmir dispute, two nuclear armed states. Look, neither India can defeat us, nor we can defeat. This is reality. But even a fire at the border, at the LOC, having a, you can say, some kind of a flavor of nuclear. That's why we say nuclear flashpoint. So if you have to save the world from this kind of disaster, we have to resolve this Kashmir disputes, and it's the responsibility of the international community. And we have to not forget, with the demographic changes, they can, but they are strengthening the anti-Kashmir. There was time within the illegally Indian occupied Kashmir, there was a pro-Indian Kashmiris like Abdullah, like Mehbooba Mufti. Where are those? They are now against the India. So Indians have to learn. But the problem is, Modi has his own political survival. He's a politician.
Right.
And he needs this kind of a slogan, this kind. And I fail to understand about the Indian intelligentsia or Indian media.
There'd been a
A
lot of-
loser won the election. In Pulwama, he was a loser. And we have seen, history has seen that the losers never win. But here the losers win the election because he was giving them impression, oh, I am a chowkidar.
Right.
That is
Dr.
not good.
Zafar Nawaz Jaspal, expert foreign affairs. It was wonderful having you on the show. We really appreciate your time. Mr. Yasir Janjua, senior analyst, thank you very much for your time at Views on News. So our both participants agree that it is the responsibility of the international community to make India realize that it has to act responsibility among the Committee of Nations, being the nuclear armed state, and it should reconsider its policies, especially towards Pakistan, where it comes to doing very frequent misadventures, which have been all the time responded befittingly, because Pakistan has the capacity and the capability to thwart any misadventure by its enemy on the eastern side. Not only this, it is also the international community's responsibility to make India resolve the Kashmir dispute as per the UN resolutions and hold a free and impartial plebiscite over there. With this note, we come to the end of today's show. Until the next one, take very good care of yourselves.